Ladies and gentlemen, do you want to know when a tyrant is finally exposed? When the mask they've held onto for years slips and the truth they feared most finally meets them face to face. A defeated narcissist isn't simply humbled, they come apart piece by piece. And if you don't recognize the signs, you might confuse their breakdown for transformation. But trust me, it's not growth, it's revelation. When a narcissist finally loses, their very first instinct is to twist the story and put themselves in the role of the victim. And the real victim eventually realizes the moment has come. They're suddenly made out to be the guilty one. The narcissist is drowning, falling into the same fate they once pushed others into. This reaction isn't soft, subtle, or calm. It's sudden, intense, and completely overwhelming. You must understand that this behavior doesn't come from genuine hurt or honest regret. It comes from a planned emotional tactic meant to regain control over how others view the situation and, more importantly, how others view them as a person. For a narcissist, control over perception has always been their sharpest weapon. When they sense they've lost the power they once used to influence you or the group they previously manipulated with ease, they slip into a victim role. They weave dramatic stories about how they were mistreated, misunderstood, betrayed, or abused. Details get twisted, context disappears, their harmful behavior gets erased, and only their pain is allowed to shine in the spotlight. What makes this behavior especially dangerous is how emotional it looks. The narcissist doesn't just claim they've been hurt, they perform it. They inflate every slight, blow up every small disagreement, and twist even the smallest boundary you set into an act of cruelty or rejection. It's not unusual for them to cry publicly, post vague emotional messages online about being broken or mistreated, or reach out to mutual friends with long, tearful monologues about their supposed suffering just to be seen hurting. The purpose behind this dramatic act is twofold. First, they want to build an army. By presenting themselves as the wounded one, they draw sympathy from people who don't know the real story. Those people, friends, relatives, even colleagues, become flying monkeys, unknowingly doing the narcissist's work by confronting you, defending them, or spreading their twisted version of events. Second, they want to shake you emotionally. When you see them hurting, you might feel guilt, confusion, or even compassion. And that's exactly the trap. The narcissist depends on your empathy to pull you back in, make you question your boundaries, or even push you to apologize for things you never did. Underneath all this acting, there is almost never any true self-awareness. What looks like suffering is usually nothing more than a bruised ego, the unbearable moment when they realize they no longer control the story or the people around them. Instead of accepting responsibility for anything they've done, they cling to the belief that they've been treated unfairly. This mental distortion protects the fragile image they built for themselves. They cannot admit they are wrong, so they reframe the story until they look like the pure, struggling hero. And here is the hardest part to witness. For a short while it can look real. The tears, the shaky voice, the claims of being abandoned, all of it can seem sincere. But if you step back and watch closely, the patterns become clear. The same person crying in one moment will be raging or spreading rumors about you the very next moment. The switch from victim to aggressor is fast and revealing. It exposes the manipulation for what it is, a desperate attempt to regain control in any way possible. When a narcissist faces a true and undeniable defeat, one of the clearest and most dangerous changes is when their rage, usually directed toward others, suddenly turns inward. This collapse is not regular sadness or typical depression. It becomes a full internal implosion, an identity crisis at the deepest layer. Their carefully built image of dominance, confidence, and superiority collapses. And what remains is something they've avoided their entire life: emptiness. For most of their existence, The narcissist has survived by pushing blame outward, projecting their fears onto others, and using people to meet their emotional needs. Their anger and outbursts were control tactics, ways to silence others, intimidate them, and keep everyone off balance. But when they finally encounter a situation they cannot overpower, whether someone stops responding, a relationship ends permanently, or their social circle turns away, their usual targets for rage disappear. There is no one left to attack, no one to gaslight, no one to push against. The wall they used to lean on for control is gone, and when that happens, their rage collapses inward. What comes next is a deep, paralyzing psychological shutdown. They might stop going to work, cut off all contact with others, or spend days hiding in bed. Some may ignore basic self-care or abandon responsibilities they once carried, often because those responsibilities fed their image. They are not used to facing the empty space inside themselves, the one they've covered with arrogance for years. When they are forced to face it, it becomes unbearable. Feelings of shame, worthlessness, and inadequacy flood in, emotions they've spent a lifetime running from. But it's very important to know that this depression is not real accountability or real remorse. The narcissist isn't mourning the pain they caused others. They're mourning the destruction of their false identity. Their pain isn't rooted in moral failure. It comes from the crushing blow to their sense of self. Losing control over how others see them feels like a kind of death, a psychological extinction event. Their inner thoughts, once full of superiority and fantasy, become weighed down with bitterness and self-hate. Yet even this self-hate does not lead to real change. It leads to paralysis and resentment. During this time, they may send desperate emotional messages, not to fix anything, but to regain control, to draw people back into their emotional world. They might say they're broken, that no one understands them, that life has treated them unfairly. This isn't healthy vulnerability. It's emotional manipulation wearing the mask of vulnerability, a final attempt to gather sympathy and regain control. If these attempts fail, the narcissist sinks even further into isolation. If left unresolved, this inward collapse can lead to destructive behaviors like substance abuse, impulsive spending, or risky decisions. They are trying to fill the emptiness or punish themselves for losing control, but none of it includes honest self-reflection. And at its core, this collapse is not healing. It's another defense mechanism, one that directs their rage inward when there's no one left outside to blame. When a narcissist faces a real defeat, especially one that threatens their public image or social position, one of their most predictable and harmful reactions is to launch a full character assassination campaign against the person they believe caused their downfall. This is not a mild response or a moment of frustration. It is a deliberate, ongoing, and deeply manipulative effort to stain another person's reputation, credibility, and connections. The narcissist understands that if they can no longer control you directly, they can still try to control how other people view you. This gives them a small sense of power even while they are emotionally falling apart. The process usually begins quietly. They start planting small doubts about your character in conversations with shared friends, co-workers, or relatives. They use lines like, "I'm really concerned about them," or "I don't think they're doing well mentally." These words hide their real goal under fake worry. From there, the stories grow bigger. They twist personal details you once trusted them with, pulling things out of context to make you look unstable, cruel, or harmful. Situations are flipped and rearranged, making them appear like the innocent, suffering one, and painting you as the one causing the damage. This campaign is driven by more than anger. It's a fight for their emotional survival. For the narcissist, appearance is everything. Their sense of identity is tightly tied to how others view them. When control over one person slips, they panic that others will soon see through their act as well. So they strike first, poisoning relationships before the actual truth can catch up. They want to ensure that if you ever reveal the abuse or manipulation you went through, people will already doubt you. Their methods vary. But they often rely on triangulation, playing people against each other to create confusion and division. They may give one friend one version of events and tell another friend something completely different, making sure no one gets a clear or full understanding of what happened. This chaos keeps the narcissist at the center of attention and forces people to choose sides, which often leaves the real victim alone. Another signature part of this behavior is the narcissist's ability to seem charming and believable to outsiders. During this time, they may act unusually friendly, generous, or thoughtful in public. This is a defensive move designed to make any accusations against them seem ridiculous. After all, how could such a polite, well-spoken, and admired person possibly be capable of manipulation or cruelty? This performance adds another layer of confusion, leaving the victim feeling even more gaslit and helpless. For the person being targeted, this character destruction campaign can feel like social death. Friendships break apart, family ties become strained, work opportunities may fade away, and all the while the narcissist watches from a distance, feeding on the chaos like it offers them a twisted sense of comfort. Their only purpose is to rewrite the story in a way that leaves them pure and untarnished while turning you into the villain. When a narcissist experiences a serious defeat, the threat to their public image feels like a direct threat to their existence. Their entire identity is built on outside validation. When that approval begins to fall apart, they rush into overdrive with desperate image repair. This isn't calm or slow, it is instant, calculated, and frantic. Their mind snaps into damage control mode, and every move becomes about saving their reputation and regaining admiration or sympathy from the people around them. One of the first things you'll notice is a sudden shift in their behavior, especially in public or online. The same person who was cold, harsh, or insulting just days earlier now tries to appear warm, soft-spoken, and deeply reflective. They may start posting motivational quotes, messages about healing, or statements about forgiveness and self-awareness. These posts are not signs of genuine growth. They are carefully chosen tools designed to give the impression that they are changing. They want people to think, wow, they've really matured, or they must be going through a personal awakening. In truth, the narcissist is performing for a larger audience than social media. They may suddenly behave generously, offer help to others, or reconnect with people they haven't spoken to in ages. Some may donate to charity or show up for community events with exaggerated kindness. These acts are not real gestures of goodness. They are strategic attempts to create a strong contrast between their new, polished public image and the accusations or complaints being directed at them. During this period, the narcissist also becomes extremely aware of how they look and sound. They control their tone, posture, and even facial expressions to appear calm, healed, and humble. They begin using therapeutic language they barely understood before, throwing around words like growth, healing, and accountability. But none of this comes from real inner change. It is purely a survival method. If people around them begin questioning their past behavior, the narcissist dodges responsibility with vague statements like, "I'm not perfect, but I'm trying," or "We all have things we need to work on." These phrases seem accountable, but are actually designed to avoid any real discussion about their actions. It's a clever way to soften criticism without ever facing it. Another major part of this frantic image repair is the narcissist's need to monitor how others are reacting. They will quietly ask friends or acquaintances for feedback, trying to sense whether their new image is being believed. If they detect doubt or hesitation, they increase their efforts, creating even more dramatic displays of kindness or emotional growth. At the center of all this behavior is their deep need to regain control over how others see them and therefore over how they feel about themselves. It's a performance directed at the people whose approval feeds their fragile sense of worth, and until the threat to their image disappears, the performance continues non-stop. When all their regular tactics fail and they feel completely cornered, the narcissist often turns to one of their most extreme and emotionally manipulative strategies: weaponized self-destruction. This is not simple sadness or a genuine emotional break. It is a calculated, sometimes unconscious tactic meant to trigger guilt, fear, or panic in the people around them. The message they send, directly or indirectly, is painfully clear. If you leave me or hold me accountable, look at what you are making me do to myself. This strategy comes in many forms. Some narcissists will threaten self-harm, hinting or even openly stating that they cannot continue living without the person they are losing control over. Others may spiral into reckless actions, substance abuse, dangerous driving, financial destruction, or dramatic public breakdowns. All of it is done with the intention of creating a crisis big enough to pull people back toward them. They're not acting from true despair, but from fear. Fear of losing power, losing attention, and losing the audience they rely on for emotional approval. The most harmful part of this behavior is the emotional trap it builds for the people around them. Loved ones, friends, and even distant acquaintances are suddenly placed in an impossible situation. On one side, they want to protect someone who seems genuinely hurt. On the other side, they sense that something about the behavior feels staged, exaggerated, or strangely calculated. The narcissist thrives in this confusing middle area. By creating a dramatic crisis, they form a situation where clear thinking becomes fogged by emotional urgency. They want people to react quickly, impulsively, and most importantly, with sympathy. What makes this tactic even more manipulative is how easily the narcissist can switch between helplessness and aggression. One moment, they're crying, speaking about their worthlessness, or hinting at harming themselves. The next moment, they explode with anger if their emotional pressure doesn't bring the reaction they want. This flip-flop between vulnerability and hostility keeps everyone around them unsure, stressed, and emotionally tied to the situation. For the narcissist, this behavior serves several purposes. First, it's a distraction. Instead of focusing on their past abuse or manipulation, everyone becomes wrapped up in managing the immediate emotional emergency. Second, it's punishment. By hurting themselves or placing themselves in danger, they punish others for pulling away or not obeying them. Third, it's a way to regain control. If people rush back to comfort them or loosen their boundaries, the narcissist sees this as a small victory. It's important to understand that while some narcissists may not consciously plan this behavior, it is still deeply manipulative. Over time, they have learned that these emotional explosions pull people back in, silence conversations about accountability, and create guilt strong enough to make others drop their limits. In the end, weaponized self-destruction is not about healing or seeking real help. It's a last resort strategy used when every other method of control has failed. It leaves deep emotional wounds in those who care, and it supports the narcissist's ongoing cycle of manipulation and refusal to face real responsibility. When a narcissist reaches defeat and realizes their old tricks no longer work, they often turn to a different strategy, short-lived epiphanies. These sudden moments of supposed self-awareness or personal insight may look like genuine breakthroughs at first. The narcissist may express regret, apologize for past actions, and talk about deep realizations they claim to have discovered. They might mention books on recovery, reference psychological ideas, or openly discuss their flaws in ways they never did before. To those watching, it can seem like the moment everyone wished for, a real turning point. But beneath this display, these epiphanies are rarely real. They are survival methods triggered by the fear of losing control, losing followers, or permanently damaging their social image. The narcissist realizes something dramatic is needed to pull people back, so they perform emotional theater, acting like a changed and awakened person. They shape their apologies carefully to sound exactly like what the other person is hoping to hear. Their delivery seems sincere, tearful, thoughtful, vulnerable. But there is one major problem. Their insight is shallow and temporary. The reason these sudden realizations never lead to real healing is because they lack the core ingredients necessary for genuine change. They lack consistent behavior, long-term responsibility, and true empathy for others. The narcissist may admit their faults one day and repeat the same behaviors the following day. Their emotional promises fade as fast as they appear. Their apologies sound deep, but the silence that follows reveals the truth. The narcissist may look honest, but it is still an illusion. The reason is simple. The sudden awakening was not based on a desire to grow. It was based on a desire to regain control over the story and the people surrounding them. This cycle of false transformation is incredibly confusing and exhausting for the people in their lives. Just when others begin setting limits or distancing themselves, the narcissist begins their dramatic speech about change. They may attend therapy once or twice, read a self-help book, or post long reflections online about growth and accountability. They may even begin conversations with lines like, "I've been thinking a lot," or "I finally understand how my actions affected people." But when you look closely, the same patterns come back quickly: blame shifting, manipulation, emotional chaos. Another reason these epiphanies never last is that they are motivated by external consequences rather than internal desire. The narcissist feels cornered, abandoned, or publicly exposed, so they react the only way they know how, by temporarily changing their behavior to look likable and trustworthy again. Once the immediate danger passes and people soften toward them, the narcissist relaxes, drops the act, and slips back into their old patterns. For those experiencing this cycle, it is crucial not to mistake these moments for lasting change. Real transformation requires time, humility, and genuine effort, things the narcissist is rarely willing to offer. These short-lived moments of supposed clarity are simply another form of manipulation disguised as self-awareness. They are crafted to pull you back into their cycle and keep you emotionally tied to them. If you want me to continue and finish the final part of your script with the same style and same length, just send the next section.